Hi, everybody. Welcome to Adventures. I hope you liked last week's little discussion. And this week, we're going to try to, talk about something a little interesting. So, last week, we talked about monogamy, whether that was possible. If you listened, you know that I think it's possible. Nana has some doubts about how practical it is. But either way, what we have all decided is that it's not happening much, right?
Exactly.
So, either that people can't be polyamorous because they don't know how to be open, or they are doing the other thing that, the C word. Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about cheating. Let's just talk about cheating. So, if any of this doesn't sit well with you, because you identify with some of it, maybe that one is not us, but
like when the coat is fitting you a little bit too tight.
You're like, why are these chicks saying this? It's not us. It's not us. But Nana, why do you think cheating is so common? And who do you think should be blamed in cheating?
It's a great question. I mean, I think the very fact that cheating is so common to me says that it's not normal, right? It's not, and it's like a continuation of our conversation last week. It's not normal for human beings to be with just one person till till the end of days. I feel like it's just not normal, and I feel like cheating, happens everywhere in all sorts of societies and all types of relationships, amongst different types of couples, between heterosexual couples, between homosexual couples, between lesbians. I feel like actually cheating is kind of a norm because people are somehow not able to negotiate open relationships, able to negotiate polyamorous relationships. But in terms of answering the question, who is to blame, right? I almost want to go back to something that you said last week, which is the person, like you said, you don't have a lot of like love for people who are not actually able to be honest with their partner and say, this is what I want, and instead they resort to cheating. So for me, if anybody has to be blamed, and I tend to find it difficult to like lay blame on people, then it's the person who is in a contractual relationship, whether that contractual relationship be marriage or whether it's kind of like an agreement that you and I are together. So if you step out of that agreement, if you don't renegotiate the agreement when it doesn't work for you, then I think, yeah, if I found that, Famia, if you and I were in a relationship and I found out that you were cheating on me, you're the one that I need to have words with. What I struggle with is when people find out their partners are cheating with them, then they go and try and attack the other woman or the other man, try and fight them. I'm like, what's this? Like, please, this is not the person you're in a relationship with. This is not the person you signed papers with, I beg.
There's a whole cottage industry around beating side chicks. It cracks me up because I think it's exactly how you said. You don't have a contract with the side chick. You don't have a contract with the outside woman. She hasn't done anything to you. But for me, what upsets me about it is that I think that particularly women think other women are an easier adversary, right? So beating another woman is easier than facing the truth about your own relationship that your guy is an asshole. And because a lot of women feel like cheating is inevitable, it's almost like they think a guy is going to cheat and then they have to set up a security system around the guy so the guy doesn't cheat. They have to cocoon their guy. So if another woman happens to be in a relationship or have some kind of thing with their guy, then it's like the woman has breached their security system. Like the same way if you caught a thief climbing over your gates, you would just grab him and beat him, basa basa, because he's invaded your sanctuary. I think people have that same sort of thought that this woman has invaded my sanctuary, this woman has stolen my property, this woman has done what, this woman has done what. And I think it's ridiculous because what has another woman who is involved with your man done to you? Even if she knows you exist, what has she done to you? I mean, what responsibility does she bear that your dude doesn't bear?
I mean, you're using an interesting like metaphor, right? So like the same way in which Ghana people catch thieves and they beat them. I feel like people target the wrong people. Politicians steal millions and billions of money. Nobody goes to catch the politicians to beat them, right? People don't deal with the people that they really should have an issue with. they like to attack the weaker, the less powerful person. And for me, like, it's kind of the thing, like, look at your relationship, think, actually, is this realistic? Is this what I want? Is this relationship making me happy? If it's not making you happy, leave. If your person keeps cheating on you, same way, if I lived in a place that kept getting baggled over again, yes, I might try to reinforce my security, but I might just say that, this neighborhood is unsafe. Let me move to an estate where there'll be other people who can keep an eye on, on my property. But then for me, I think this is the other issue with this notion of people cheating, because for me, it assumes you can own a human being and that this human being is yours and they belong to you. And so, nobody else needs to step in. I don't think of human beings as property. That is a capitalist way of thinking, right? And I feel like this is why we're kind of in the situation we're in now, where men see women as their possessions, right? Because it comes from that capitalistic mentality where men want to be able to own women's body so they can be guaranteed that the children that come from the woman are their children, and that they're only passing on to their inheritance to children that they have literally biologically, seeded, for want of a better expression. And for me, all of that is rubbish, and we kind of need to throw all of that in the bin.
You know what? I think you made an interesting point, because this actually brings me back to something that I always ask, because I think it really does go back to the property thing. Have you noticed that when a man cheats on a woman, the woman goes and beats the other woman before she even deals with a guy, right? But when a woman cheats on a guy, the guy hardly ever goes to mess up the other guy. They beat the girlfriend or the wife first. So it seems like whenever cheating happens, whether it's man cheating, woman cheating, some woman is getting beaten. Like when cheating happens, a woman is getting beaten, regardless of whether she is the third party or she is the person in the relationship who has done the cheating. And I think that really speaks to something,
Yeah. And I want people to realize, like, in the way you're saying beaten, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's the woman being blamed, right? It's not necessarily physical. Like, violence takes shape in so many forms. And yes, when women are perceived to have, and I want to say perceived, because there's so many times women are getting assaulted, being accused of, so even just the mere thought for a lot of people that a woman has stepped out of a relationship, has cheated, the big C comes up, it leads to violence, it leads to stigmatization. And it's not just within the couple, right? It's like society's reaction as well. How do family members react? How do friends react? It's always the woman who becomes like enemy number one.
Yeah. Always. Even in newspaper articles, like, I've realized this. When people are writing about a robbery, they don't say like, man burgled house for money for sick mother or whatever. But whenever there's an instance where a woman gets hurt and there's a suspicion of infidelity, it's always in the newspaper article. Man murders cheating wife. Man suspects woman of, woman ends up in hospital. Like, there's always some suggestion that if you say the woman was cheating, somehow that makes it okay. Everybody will understand why what happened to her, And you're right. A lot of the time, it's not even realistic. A lot of the time, maybe the person didn't even do anything. Maybe they're just with a possessive partner. Maybe the guy is insanely jealous. But either way, whether they did or they didn't, that's never any excuse to physically or mentally or emotionally assault someone. Somebody messing with your feelings is not reason enough for you to put them in that kind of danger. It doesn't make any sense to me, because it goes back to what you're saying. The person is not your possession.
Yeah, like, there's never a reason enough, is there, to actually put your hands on anybody? For me, I can't think of anything that justifies that.
That's a good point.
You're defending your own life. And I feel like, the world hasn't moved on greatly, right? I know, like, back in the day in places like France, if a man murdered his wife because she cheated on him, it was considered a crime of passion.
Awesome, yeah.
And you know how colonial our society still are. I mean, I'm in Ghana, and some people are making noise about a royal visit. So we still haven't recovered from the colonial malaise. And so some of these things, I think, also come through like the Victorian era. Yep. They come through like colonialism, and we're still keeping to it. right? If we think of our own like societies, I don't know.
No,
Maybe I criticize the past, but I like to feel like pre-colonial societies, African societies, were way more open than our contemporary societies.
Isn't that also a bit of a utopian notion, though? Because we're definitely messed up, and it's a confluence of coming from this culture that used to work for us, and then no longer having the systems where that culture can do what it's supposed to do. So we're sort of stuck in this stage of confusion. But also, I don't think my great 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 grandmother was allowed to cheat with impunity in the same way her husband was, even in a polygamous society. You know, it's polygamy for a reason. It's men marrying multiple wives. I mean, there's always been that undercurrent of sexism or misogyny or whatever in any society, though it is better in some than others. But I think generally, when you look at it, men tend to at least be allowed to cheat more. It's more socially acceptable in any culture when men are cheating versus when women are cheating. You know?
And I mean, I think the other thing as well is that men are literally encouraged to sow their wild oats, right? So they're also encouraged ahead of getting married to get all this angst, all this, I don't know, like curiosity, sexual desire, whatever, out of their system. You know? But then, of course, women, we have no wild oats at all. All our oats are very tame. We're never allowed to sow them, you know, and I feel like what I observe and what I've observed in Ghana, actually, you know, is that it's women in Ghana tend to be quite faithful until they're married, and then it's like, aha, I have now got the ring on my finger, so now I can also do what I want. You know, just prove the fact that it's human beings that cheat. It's not necessarily men cheating or women cheating. It's human beings that cheat.
Yeah. And it's never, everything I've seen of cheating, it's very rarely about the person who's getting cheated on. It's almost always about the person who's cheating. The person is trying to fulfill something within themselves. The person is trying to get their partner's attention or hurt their partner emotionally by cheating. The person has a sense of entitlement about having what they want when they want it. The person has no loyalty. But it's I've never seen an instance in which somebody cheated and it was because of another person directly being responsible. Everybody's responsible for their own actions. And I think when people cheat, particularly in Ghana,
Famia, I don't know if it's just me. I don't think it's just me, but you've actually frozen. So I'm hoping you'll be able to unfreeze. Wow, this is interesting because this is the challenge with live, right? I'm gonna keep chatting for a little while and hope that Famia comes back. But I very much agree that yes, you know, I mean, you the person who's been cheated on, you're never to blame, you're never at fault. I think it'll be easy to have your confidence knocked when your partner has strayed, when your partner has stepped outside of the agreements of your relationship. But I would say never blame yourself. But then the other thing I would say is I don't feel like there's always a reason, like this kind of, I don't feel like there's always a reason why people cheat, or it's always because they're entitled or because they're unloyal or disloyal. Actually, I think sometimes people cheat because you know, it's actually not that personal. It's not about trying to hurt their partner. They're cheating because they don't feel like they can truly be themselves. They don't feel like the society will tolerate them. I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday who identifies as polyamorous, and they were saying, look, we can't even talk about polyamory in this society. And so, yes, by default, if you're a person who, in a sense, has the ability to love multiple people, then, you know, you could be open and honest with all your partners, and you can control that, but you can't control what your other partners choose to do. You can't control if the other people you're in a relationship with, you know, have other partners and they choose not to tell the other partner that they are polyamorous. And I hadn't actually thought about it from that perspective before. I was like, oh, because in my mind, and I guess this is what I find attractive theoretically about polyamorous relationships, is the whole idea of radical honesty, is the whole idea that everybody in that permutation is being open and honest with each other. And so I thought, wow, okay. Because what my friend was saying to me is, you, the person who's polyamorous, you can only be accountable to yourself. You cannot be accountable to the other people. You cannot control what other people choose to do. And so that really, really stayed with me. But it looks like Famia is about to come back on. Famia, you're back. I just kept chatting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know what happened. Technology is not our friend.
So I can just tell you in a snapshot what I was saying. I was kind of saying, agreeing with you and saying to people who have been cheated on, like, don't ever feel like it's your fault. But then I was also saying that I feel like it's not always that people are cheating because they're being disloyal or because of whatever. But, you know, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday. She identifies as polyamorous, and she was saying, in this society, right, you're the polyamorous person. You don't have control over the actions of your other partners. And so you, as a polyamorous person, you could be open and honest with each of your partners, but one of your partner could be, you know, literally cheating on somebody else. It doesn't mean you're not in a polyamorous relationship. You're in a polyamorous relationship.
They are.
Exactly. And I was like, huh, interesting. I've never thought about that before, you know.
That makes sense. That brings the question, though, about the social contract, because I was having this discussion with you and a couple of people recently. Do you feel like women, particularly since we're usually the victims of cheating, have an obligation to each other to not date people you know are with other people? Because I kind of have this philosophy, like, if you don't date people who are cheating, then men don't have anyone to cheat with.
I disagree with that. I really disagree with that. Because again, as us putting the onus on women, right? We expect women to say everything. Women need to stop men cheating. I mean, I'll be honest, you know, there are times I have been a side chick for a while, for a period, but there's always been the other person who has been the one, like, on my case. I'm like, all right, okay, just tonight, or maybe for 1 week, or whatever, you know. But it's not, I'm not the one in a you know, in a contract with somebody.
Yeah, with somebody.
And if this person didn't do it with me, they'll do it with somebody else, really. So I don't feel that it's a woman's responsibility not to sleep with a married guy or a married woman in order to prevent that person from cheating. It doesn't work that way. We can only police our own behavior. We can't police other people.
That's a good point. I kind of feel like if the world has ethics, then the people who don't have ethics, i.e. the cheating people, we just kind of isolate them on an island. It's like nobody will play with you. Like,
we have different ethics. Human beings cannot be owned. So by our ethics, it makes it really hard to cheat, because cheating presumes that you're thinking of people as possessions. You know, at least in my mind. Yeah, I mean, I remember I read Bell Hooks' memoir, Wounds of Passion, you know, and I'm one of those people. I stand for Bell Hooks. I know she's a bit problematic nowadays. Now that we're all so woke, we can see Bell Hooks is a bit problematic, but I still stand for her. And I remember in her memoir, she was speaking about her relationship with this guy. And then one day, this guy's partner turned on her doorstep. She was so cool. I was just like, oh my God, no, I mean, this is next level. Like, you know, and I think that would be my fear if I was with somebody and say I was with a guy and the person's wife, I'd be mortified and I'd feel really bad, you know. But at the same time, I'll just have to constantly remind myself, I'm not the one married to him.
Not the one married to him.
I beg. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, audience, we have a question for you. Do you think you have a moral obligation to leave if you get cheated on? Do you think that if you got cheated on, you should leave? I mean, Nana, you can tell me what you think, but I'm more interested in hearing what the people who are watching think.
I'm going to type the question out for those who and maybe those who will be listening afterwards, because they can respond and you and I can come back to the video and respond. So the question is, do you think you have the moral obligation to leave if you are being cheated on? So yes, guys and girls and non-binary people watching the video, please share your thoughts. I hope this comment shows. Yeah. So is that a question that you want me to answer?
Well, yeah, I was going to wrap this up, but you can answer it before we head out.
I know I'll kind of surprise you because it'll seem like I've been saying the opposite. But actually, if anybody cheats on me, it's over. I am packing my things and I am out. No, I'll tell you why. Because I really prize honesty. Like, I'm the kind of person, I try so hard to be like open and honest and talk about my feelings and talk about everything. And that's a lot of emotional work, right? And so if you and I have agreed, we've spoken about everything and we've agreed that, you know what, we're not doing other people, it's just you and I, and you do not do that, I will feel really disrespected. And it's not because I will be upset that you slept with somebody else, it's because I can't trust you.
That's nice.
And it means I couldn't protect myself in that sexual relationship, right? Because if I'm assuming I'm sleeping with only you, are acting a particular way, as opposed to if I know we're sleeping with multiple people, then, it's dams, it's condoms, it's the whole 9 yards. So I would totally leave if somebody cheated on me. Yeah.
That's a good point. So would I. But I've hung out with people of late. I have friends who are I will leave. And then they've had children or they have property together. And all of a sudden their tune is a little different. And I've learned not to be judgmental, because a lot of the time people not leaving is not because they don't value themselves or they don't respect themselves or they're not strong enough to leave. It's just that for some people life is complicated, And
no, I totally agree.
Yeah, I'd leave.
Yeah, I would leave. I'll be out. I'll be like, bye. Deuces.
Yeah. All right, I think that is it for today. I think we have prattled on enough. Everybody hit us up in the comments. Tell us, would you leave if somebody cheated on you? Do you think it's okay to stay? Do you think it's a weakness if you stay? Do you think you're obligated to leave? And also, do you think that if you don't leave, the cheating could ever stop? Or do you think that once you let it happen, that's it? You've set a cheating standard for the rest of your life. Let us know.
Daniel has actually asked a question. He's asking, is leaving always the best?
Everybody's situation is different.
True. And I think it's like for the individual to decide, right? And nobody can decide for that person. For somebody, leaving may be the best thing to do. For somebody else, staying might be the best thing to do. For somebody else, they need to find time and energy and motivation to leave. And some people might leave multiple times. Their relationships I've left multiple times. You know what I mean? I know, I leave. You're like, Charlie, you come back, you try, you go again, you come back. And then by the 10th time, I'm like, nah, I'm done. But actually, I have to say that's something I've changed. I don't do that anymore. Now, if I leave, that's it.
Teach me how to do that, because I'm definitely a relationship remixer.
I think it took a while. But it's not easy. Everybody's process is different. So it is one of those things. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Do we have any comments? I don't see any.
No other comments.
So I will catch you next week.
Same time,
same place.
Yes.
Everybody, comment, suggestions, anything you'd like us to talk about, stuff you'd like us to improve, hints, comments, advice, prayers, Christian, motivational speeches, whatever. Hit us up.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.